Well, thank you all for coming. In the week since the so-called comprehensive immigration reform bill was defeated, we've heard a chorus repeated over and over by amnesty advocates. If you don't like our plan, then show us your plan, they say. Well, today I'm here to do just that. Before I do, however, I want to talk about some of the legal tools that the Bush administration already has at its disposal to combat the current state of immigration anarchy. Tools that the administration is simply choosing not to use. A reasonable person understands you can't stop illegal immigration without enforcing laws against employers. With only 3 notices of intent to fine or sentence an entire year, that's not a failure of the law, it's a failure of the enforcers. When Congress authorized an entry-exit system 11 years ago, and still is still nowhere near complete, it's not a failure of vision, it's a failure of execution. When a president understands that we need to deny al-Qaeda safe haven in Iraq, but refuses to crack down on illegal sanctuary policies at home, that's not vigilance, it's a dangerous dereliction. This is just a handful of examples, but there are many more indeed. While we often hear administration officials saying that they simply can't enforce our laws, when the truth is that they haven't even tried. It's not that they can't enforce these laws, it's that they don't want to. One that comes to mind that we don't have, well, we have on there, but on the list, but I just wanted to bring out in a little more detail, because we're now talking about bringing in several thousand, maybe 6,000 Iraqi refugees. But there is a law on the books today, very clear, very specific law that says, and we've got it listed there, that says that if your country refuses to take back one of its nationals that has committed a crime in the United States, a crime that would otherwise be a reason for deportation, if the country refuses to take them back, then the Justice Department is to certify that to the State Department, and the State Department is to deny visas to anyone from that country. Now, the law is clear, and yet we are ignoring it entirely. I don't believe there's been a single attempt on the part of the State Department to actually enforce that law. And Iraq is one of the countries that refuses to take back its nationals, which is an incredible situation considering everything else that's happening there. So that's just one thing. And by the way, when I asked the Secretary of State about that, she said, well, you know, Iraq's got a lot of problems. That was her response. Exactly. There are 40,000 Chinese, I'm told, 40,000 Chinese that could be deported for exactly the same reason. China refuses to take back their nationals. And when I asked the Secretary of State, she said, well, we wouldn't want to, deny visas to the Chinese, and we have a lot of trade. But the law doesn't say anything about a country having a particular problem, or the country that we have a lot of trade with. And the law says that you are supposed to deny a visa to that country if they won't accept their nationals back who have committed crimes here. It's just one example, but it's so blatant. It's just incredible that there is this total disregard for these laws. That the administration feels that they can just do anything they want, completely ignore the will of Congress, and not just when we pass resolutions, saying, but we think you should do this or that. They ignore it when we tell them exactly what it is that they need to do by passing a law. At any rate, that's one that it really does annoy me because it's, as I say, again, I just read about the fact that we are beginning to bring in lots and lots of refugees from Iraq, and because also, by the way, in Colorado and in one other state, not too long ago, we had an Iraqi national who committed, actually 2, each one in a different state committed a different crime. One was manslaughter, and Iraq did not take back that national. At any rate, this is just a handful of examples, as I say. There are many more indeed. We've given you a list of the ones we've compiled. While we often hear administration officials say that they simply can't enforce the law, the truth is they haven't even tried. It's not that they can't enforce the laws, it's that they do not want to. Empowering our immigration enforcement officers to use existing tools is a good place to start, but it's only a start. My legislation would build on these tools by making a number of long overdue changes to our immigration law. Because we have to understand that although we did an excellent job, I mean, I think it was great that we actually stopped the Senate bill. I mean, that was terrific. I'm excited by it. The voice of the American people was heard. And so we did not exacerbate the problem by passing such a law. But, in fact, there is still the problem. We have to deal with it. I agree with that. Part of that solution, a significant part, as I say, is enforcing the present law. Look at all the stuff that you have at your disposal, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary of Homeland Security, who can continually say that there's nothing they can do. But we are introducing legislation today or tomorrow that will improve the immigration enforcement and make changes in our immigration system. These changes will help reduce the strain that uncontrolled immigration places on our education, health care, and economy. They will help eliminate the laws or the state of lawlessness that exists on our borders, and perhaps more importantly, these changes will start our country down the road toward a more orderly and sustainable legal immigration system. First, we ought to, of course, end birthright citizenship. This is something that comes up often. We have introduced legislation, specific legislation with regard to this in the past, but it's an important part, I think, of any change that needs to occur. The bill clarifies that at least one parent must be a citizen or a lawful permanent resident for a child to have American citizenship. We can talk about that if there's more detail you want to go into, because I know that there's been a big argument about the 14th Amendment and whether it's required, that birthright citizenship is required of that. I don't believe so, and I can tell you why. Also, Congress has too long ignored the prescient recommendations of the Jordan Commission, the suggestions that Congress itself solicited. Eliminating chain migration and the visa lottery are both good ideas, and that's why they're in the bill. Legal immigration between 1924 and the early 1970s, much more